The phone lit up at 4:47 a.m., blue glow harsh against the dark bedroom. Occupied now. I'll call later. Timestamp 1:03 a.m. Diane hadn't worked past midnight in 38 years. Wind rattled the window panes, blizzard coming off the plains, sound like a freight train bearing down. The furnace struggled below, ductwork pinging metal on metal. I sat up, smelled yesterday's coffee gone stale, diesel fuel on my work clothes draped over the chair. I drove the 4 miles to Westbrook Auction in whiteout conditions. Diane's sedan and Cody's truck sat in the lot, both snow-buried 6 inches deep. They'd been there since 8 o'clock, maybe earlier. Upstairs office window glowed yellow, 2 silhouettes, the light dimmed. I didn't knock. Drove home, hands steady on the wheel. 5:30 I opened the leather ledger, my grandfather's dated 1889. Flipped to the back page, emergency contacts, deed location in my father's cramped hand. Opened the safe behind our wedding photo. Combination hadn't changed since 1962. Pulled the deed folder, only a photocopy inside. Held it to the lamp. The signature looked wrong. Ink color didn't match my pen. That wasn't my signature. Someone had traced it. Diane's headlights swept across the kitchen window at 6:15. I heard her boots on the porch, stamping off snow. The door opened. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of someone else's cologne. Something sharp, citrus heavy, not mine. She stopped when she saw me at the table. Ledger open, photocopy beside it. "You're up early." Her mascara had run, black smudges under both eyes. Snow melted in her hair. "Emergency inventory audit?" I kept my voice level. "That's what your text said last week." "Walt, your car's been at Westbrook since 8 p.m. I can tell by the snow accumulation. Text came at 1 a.m. I tapped the photocopy. 5 hours is a long audit. She set her purse down, hands shaking. Cody needed help with paperwork. The auction house is in trouble, financially, and... "Where's the original deed, Diane?" Her face went white. "What deed?" "The one you took from the safe." "I don't know what you're talking about." But her eyes cut to the wedding photo on the mantel, the safe behind it. "You're being paranoid." "Am I?" I slid the photocopy across the table. "This signature, that's not mine." She looked at it for 3 seconds, looked away. "I need coffee." "Sit down. Don't tell me what to do in my own house." "Our house," I said. "For 38 years. Sit down." She sat. "Your story changed 3 times in 2 minutes," I said. "Inventory audit, paperwork emergency, financial trouble. Which is it?" "All of it." "Try again." Her jaw tightened. "You wouldn't understand. You've never understood anything except cattle and dirt." I closed the ledger, stood. "I'm going to check the herd." "That's it? That's all you have to say?" "No." I pulled on my coat, heavy canvas stiff with cold. "I'm saying you have, until I get back to decide if you want to tell me the truth, because I'm going to find it either way." The barn was 15 degrees warmer than outside, but my breath still fogged. 40 head of cattle, most lying down in their stalls. The smell hit me, hay and manure and warm animal bodies, a smell I'd known since I was 9 years old. Safe, honest. Calf number 487 was 3 days old, wobbly on her legs. I ran my hand along her flank, pulled the ear tagger from my belt. She didn't flinch. Good bloodline. Her mother watched me chewing cud, trusting. I punched the tag through, quick, clean. Opened the ledger to record it. Farmer 487, female. Born January 19th, damn the 302. My handwriting, same as it had been for 40 years. Blocky capitals, black ink from the same brand of pen. I flipped to the back page. My father's handwriting, tight loops, faded blue ink. Then I looked at the photocopy again, at the signature someone had traced over my name. The pen was wrong, ballpoint, not felt tip. And the pressure, too light, like someone copying from a sample, nervous their hand might slip. I stood there, barn quiet, except for the cattle shifting in their stalls. Outside, the wind howled. Inside, my heartbeat felt too loud. I drove to First Baptist to clear my head. The church parking lot was empty, too early for Wednesday services. I sat in the truck, engine running for heat, and stared at the white clapboard building where Diane and I had been married in 1987, where we'd baptized Clay in 1985, where I'd buried my father in 2003, a piece of paper tucked under the windshield wiper. I got out, pulled it free. Legal letterhead, First National Bank, addressed to Walter Brennan, already opened. Diane's perfume on the envelope, that same too sweet smell she'd started wearing last October. Notice of foreclosure. Pursuant to loan default on account number 8472940, First National Bank demands payment of $180,000 in dollars within 90 days. or we'll proceed with property seizure. Loan collateral. Brennan Ranch, deed number 4478820, 90 days, 12 weeks, 1 season. I'd never signed loan papers, never taken a loan against the ranch, not in 40 years of owning it, not once. But someone had. Someone with access to the deed, someone who knew how to trace my signature well enough to fool a banker. The wind picked up, rattling the church's loose gutter. Crows called from the pine windbreak, harsh and mocking. I looked at the notice again. Loan origination date, October 14th. The same week Diane started wearing new perfume. The same week she started coming home late from quilting circle. The same week I stopped sleeping through the night. I pulled into the church parking lot the following Sunday, 30 minutes early for service. Wanted to sit in silence before the congregation arrived. Needed to think. Mabel Henderson's Buick was already there. So were 5 other cars. The quilting circle, gathered near the fellowship hall entrance. Steam rose from their coffee thermoses in the cold air. I tried to walk past. Mabel stepped into my path. "Walter." She smiled, but her eyes were doing inventory. My unwashed hair, yesterday's shirt, the hollowness I could feel in my own face. "We've been meaning to talk to you." The other women closed ranks behind her. Carol, Linda, Judith, 2 others whose names I'd forgotten. All of them watching me like I was a calf they were deciding whether to cull. "Morning, Mabel." "We're concerned about Diane." She adjusted her scarf. Cashmere. Smelled like department store perfume. "She's been working herself to exhaustion. Double shifts, late nights. We barely see her at quilting anymore." My jaw tightened. "That's so?" "Poor thing." Linda touched my arm. I stepped back. "She's been so stressed. Cody Westbrook's been such a comfort to her, helping with, well, with everything." The words landed like a hoof to the chest. "Cody's been a comfort," I repeated. "Oh, yes," Carol nodded, earnest. "He's been wonderful. Drove her home from the hospital twice last week when her car wouldn't start. Helped her with some paperwork for the nurses' union. Such a gentleman." Judith leaned in, voice dropping to that conspiratorial whisper women use when they're about to gut you. "We know things have been difficult at home, Walter. Diane mentioned you've been distant." "Distant. Well," Mabel's smile turned pitying. "You did choose the ranch over her. Everyone knows that." I looked at each of them. 40 years I'd known these women. Watched their kids grow up in Sunday school next to Clay. Fixed Linda's fence after the ice storm in '09. Drove Carol to the hospital when her husband had his heart attack. They'd been covering for Diane for months. Every Tuesday night, Diane claimed she was at quilting circle. They'd been her alibi. "Excuse me," I said. Mabel caught my sleeve. "We're just trying to help." "By lying for her?" Her face flushed. "We're not. Quilting ends at 9:30. Diane's been coming home at 11. Where's she been those 90 minutes, Mabel?" Silence. The wind picked up, carrying the smell of wood smoke from someone's chimney. "We don't appreciate your tone," Judith said. I walked past them into the church, heard their voices rise behind me, urgent whispers that followed me down the aisle. Rita Kimball's office at First National smelled like burnt coffee and photocopier toner. She was 58, gray hair cut short, reading glasses on a chain. Her father and mine had been friends. She'd grown up on the neighboring ranch until the drought of '78 nearly killed them. "Walter," she gestured to the chair across from her desk. Didn't smile. "I was hoping you'd come in." "Rita, I need to know about this loan." I set the foreclosure notice on her desk. She picked it up, read it, set it down carefully like it might explode. "I can't discuss the details of—" "Someone forged my signature." Her face didn't change, but her fingers tightened on the pen she was holding. "Rita, please." She was quiet for 30 seconds. Then she opened a drawer, pulled out a manila folder, slid it across the desk. "I'm violating about 6 regulations by showing you this." The loan documents were inside, dated October 14th, amount $180,000. Collateral, Brennan Ranch, signature Walter Brennan. Except it wasn't. And stamped in the corner, notarizing the signature, Diane M. Brennan, license number 4829, CO. I stopped breathing. "She didn't know," I said. "She couldn't have—" "Walter." Rita's voice was gentle, pitying. "She notarized it. That means she watched someone sign your name. Or she signed it herself and notarized it anyway. Either way, that's fraud." The room felt too small, too hot. I loosened my collar. "Why?" "Cody Westbrook." Rita pulled out another document, 3 liens against Westbrook Livestock Auction, dated 2022, 2023, 2024. He's been drowning in debt for years. The auction house is on the verge of collapse. He needed capital. So he stole my ranch. He used your ranch as collateral for a loan he never intended to repay. She leaned forward, and Diane helped him do it. My hands were shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs. What are my options? Legally? Rita shook her head. The bank board already voted. We have to proceed with foreclosure. I fought them, Walter, but the loan's in default, the collateral's legitimate. It's not legitimate, it's fraud. Then prove it. She slid a business card across the desk. County clerk, file a complaint, get a handwriting expert, do it fast. How fast? You have 87 days. I stood. The chair scraped against linoleum. Rita, why are you helping me? Because your daddy saved our farm in '78 when the bank wouldn't. Her eyes were wet. And because some debts don't have an expiration date. I walked out into the cold. My truck was the only vehicle in the parking lot. On the seat, a note in Diane's handwriting, staying at Linda's. We both need space. I was in the barn 4 days later, replacing a rotted board on the cattle gate, when Vern McCready's truck rumbled up the drive. Didn't announce himself, just grabbed a toolbox from his flatbed and walked over. Gate's been squeaking for a month, he said. Figured you could use a hand. Vern was 72, built like a fence post, all sinew and scarred knuckles. Purple Heart from Vietnam hung in his living room, though he never talked about it. Widower since 75, lived alone on a 160 acres bordering mine to the east. We worked in silence for 30 minutes. The smell of creosote from the treated lumber mixed with cold air and diesel exhaust from his idling truck. His hands moved steady, practiced. Mine shook. Finally, he set down his hammer. My Donna left me in '75, he said. For my best friend. Took half the cattle in the settlement. I kept working, didn't look up. Thought I'd die, Vern continued. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, drove past their place every Sunday just to torture myself. He pulled a thermos from his coat, poured coffee into the lid. Steam rose. Took me 2 years to figure out I was the one keeping the wound open. He handed me the lid. I drank, burnt my tongue. How'd you stop? Stopped trying to understand why. He poured himself a cup. She made a choice. Wasn't about me being a bad husband, or him being a better man. It was about her wanting something different. Once I accepted that, I could start rebuilding. A crow called from the pine windbreak. The wind had died down. First calm day in a week. You rebuild alone? Yeah. He looked out at the fields, snow melting in patches where the sun hit. Some fences can't be mended, Walt, but you can build new ones. He finished his coffee, screwed the lid back on the thermos. You're gonna make it, he said, but you gotta stop trying to make sense of it. After he left, I stood at the gate for a long time, watching the cattle. They didn't care about betrayal or mortgages or forged signatures. They cared about hay and water and shelter. Simple. Honest. I wished I could be a cow. The county clerk's office was in the courthouse basement, fluorescent lights humming overhead. Margaret Simmons had worked there 30 years, knew every deed, lien, and easement in the county by memory. Walter Brennan. She looked up from her computer, reading glasses perched on her nose. Wondered when you'd show up. I set the loan documents on her counter. Need to file a fraud complaint. She picked them up, studied them, her mouth pressed into a thin line. This is notarized by Diane Brennan. I know. Your wife. Yes. She was quiet, reading. Then she pulled out a form, slid it across the counter with a pen. Fill this out. I'll need the original deed for comparison, your own signature samples, and a notarized statement that you didn't authorize this loan. How long will it take? Investigation? She tilted her head, calculating. 60 to 75 days, minimum. We're short-staffed, and I have to coordinate with the state notary board, the bank, and I have 87 days before foreclosure. Her expression softened. I'll put a rush on it. I filled out the form. My hand cramped halfway through, realized I'd been gripping the pen hard enough to leave marks. Margaret took it, scanned it, pulled out her own notary stamp. This'll cost you $300 for the handwriting expert, she said. County doesn't cover that. I'll find it. She stamped the form. The sound was final, official, binding. Off the record? She leaned forward, voice dropping. Get a good handwriting expert, one who's testified in court before, and pray, Walter. Because even if we prove fraud, getting the bank to reverse the foreclosure in time, she shook her head. It'll be close. I walked out into the courthouse lobby. Through the window, I could see Westbrook Livestock Auction across the street, big corrugated metal building, Cody's truck in the lot. I didn't stop, didn't even slow down. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the ledger open, wrote Day 7, filed fraud complaint, 83 days left. Margaret says 60, 75 days for investigation. My phone buzzed. Diane's number. I watched it ring. 5 times. 6. Voicemail. Walt, we need to talk. You can't just ignore me. This isn't healthy. Call me back. I deleted it, opened the ledger again, flipped it to the section where I kept cattle records, births, deaths, sales, 40 years of entries, my father's handwriting in the early pages, then mine taking over in 1985, continuity, stewardship, legacy. I'd promised my father I'd keep this land in the family, sworn it at his deathbed in 2003. Now his daughter-in-law was trying to steal it. The furnace kicked on. Wind rattled the kitchen window. Somewhere outside, a coyote howled. 83 days. Cody Westbrook showed up at the ranch on day 12. February cold, temperature hovering just above 0. I was in the barn fixing a water heater when I heard his truck. That diesel rumble you could hear a quarter mile off. Expensive engine in an expensive Ford. He came through the barn door wearing pressed jeans, polished boots, a sheepskin coat that probably cost more than my monthly feed bill. Smile on his face like we were old friends. Walt. He extended his hand. I didn't take it. Set down my wrench, straightened up slow. My back popped. Little cold for a social call, I said. Thought we should talk. Man to man. He lowered his hand, unfazed. Clear the air before things get ugly. Things are already ugly. They don't have to be. He leaned against a stall door. One of the heifers snorted, moved away. Animals know. Look, I know you're upset. Diane told me you found out about us, but Walt, this doesn't have to be complicated. Complicated. I picked up the wrench again, turned it over in my hands. That's one word for it. I'm offering you a way out. He pulled a folded paper from his coat pocket. $50,000, cash. You sign over your interest in the ranch. I assume the debt. You walk away clean. Walk away from land my family's owned since 1889. Walk away from a foreclosure that'll destroy your credit for a decade. His voice stayed smooth, practiced. Auctioneer's voice, knew how to sell anything. Be reasonable. The bank will seize it anyway. At least this way you get something. I set the wrench down carefully, looked at him straight. Get off my property. The smile finally cracked. Rita told me you filed a complaint. That was stupid, Walt. That's so. I've got lawyers, good ones. You're a rancher in debt trying to blame everyone but yourself. Who do you think the county will believe? The handwriting expert? His jaw tightened. There's no expert. You don't have that kind of money. Found it. A lie, but he didn't need to know that. Doesn't matter. He pushed off the stall door, took a step closer. You know what does matter? The bank board held an emergency vote yesterday. Your foreclosure timeline just got accelerated. You've got 60 days now, not 90. Some clause about borrower hostility, filing a complaint triggered it. The barn felt suddenly smaller, colder. You're lying. Call Rita. Ask her. He smiled again, and this time it was genuine, mean. And one more thing. Diane's filing for divorce next week. Her lawyer's going after half your assets. Whatever you manage to salvage from this mess, you'll lose half of it to her. My hands curled into fists. He saw it, took a step back. Careful, Walt. Assault would look real bad right now. You already look unhinged. Unhinged. That's what people are saying. He headed for the door, stopped. Oh, and if you keep spreading lies about me, fraud, forgery, all that, I'll sue you for defamation. You'll lose whatever's left. He walked out. His truck engine started, smooth and powerful. I watched through the barn door as he drove away, gravel crunching under his tires. 60 days. I pulled out my phone, called Rita. She answered on the first ring. Walter, I was about to call you. Is it true? 60 days? Silence. Then, the board voted yesterday. I'm so sorry. I fought them, but I hung up, sat down on a hay bale. The barn was quiet except for the cattle shifting in their stalls, the water heater ticking as it cooled. 60 days, 2 months, 1 season, Sunday service. I arrived 10 minutes late, slipped into my usual pew, near the back. Father Tomas was mid-sermon, something about forgiveness and mercy. The congregation was smaller than usual, flu going around, he'd said last week. During coffee hour, I poured myself a cup from the percolator. Burnt, as always. The fellowship hall smelled like old wood polish and stale donuts. Mabel Henderson stood at the center table, surrounded by her quilting circle. Her voice carried. Such a difficult situation. Poor Diane, trapped all these years with a man who cared more about cattle than his own wife. Linda nodded. Emotional neglect is still abuse. Absolutely, Carol chimed in. My sister went through the same thing. Her husband worked constantly, never talked about feelings. She finally had to leave for her own mental health. I set my coffee down, walked toward the table. The conversation stopped. All 6 women turned to look at me. Morning, ladies, I said. Mabel's face flushed. Walter, we were just discussing my marriage. I kept my voice level. I heard. We're concerned, Judith said. Diane's been through so much. Has she? You have to understand her perspective. Linda touched my arm again. I didn't move away this time. Just looked at her hand until she withdrew it. She gave you 38 years. She deserves happiness. She forged my signature on loan documents, I said quietly. Helped Cody Westbrook steal my ranch. That's not about happiness, that's theft. The women exchanged glances. Mabel stepped forward. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. Or it's what you tell yourself to avoid taking responsibility for driving her away. Mabel's voice sharpened. Diane came to us months ago, crying, said she felt invisible, said you cared more about that land than you ever cared about her. And you believed her. Why wouldn't we? Carol crossed her arms. We've known Diane for 20 years. Boy, she's been a dedicated volunteer, a caring friend. You're the one who's always been absent. I looked at each of them, saw the certainty in their faces, the closed ranks. They'd chosen their side. Excuse me, I said. Walked out through the sanctuary. Father Tomas was cleaning up, arranging hymnals. He looked up. Walter, you left early. Needed air. He set down the hymnals, walked over. I heard some of what was said in there. And I can't take sides. You know that. He pulled at his collar, nervous habit. But I will say this, truth has a way of surfacing, like spring thaw. What's frozen and hidden eventually comes up. How long does that take? As long as it needs to. I drove home. The ranch was empty, just me and 40 head of cattle. I sat in the truck in the driveway for 20 minutes, engine running for heat, staring at the house. Diane's car pulled up behind me. I got out. She got out. We stood 10 feet apart, breath fogging in the cold. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Walt, please, I know you're angry, but where'd you put the money? She blinked. What? The $180,000. Where is it? That's not... It's complicated. Try me. She wrapped her coat tighter. Cody needed help. The auction house was going under and he had kids in college, and... So you gave him my ranch. I gave him a loan, using the ranch as collateral. It was temporary, just until he could get back on his feet. You forged my signature. I knew you'd say no. Her voice rose, cracked. You always say no, to everything, to vacations, to upgrading the house, to moving somewhere with actual culture. Instead of this, she gestured at the fields. This prison. This prison is 4 generations of my family. Your family, not mine. She stepped closer. I've lived here for 38 years, Walt. 38 years of cows and mud and loneliness. Do you know what that's like? You could have left. Oh, I did. Tears on her cheeks now, freezing in the cold. I'm leaving now. I found someone who actually sees me, who wants to build something new instead of tending something dead. Then go. This is my house too. No. I pulled the foreclosure notice from my pocket. This is collateral on a fraudulent loan. In 60 days, it won't be anyone's house. She stared at the paper. You filed a complaint. Yes. Do you have any idea what you've done? If they investigate, I could go to jail. My nursing license. You should have thought about that before you notarized a forged signature. She was shaking now, rage or cold, or both. You selfish bastard. You care more about revenge than about us. There is no us. There hasn't been for months. A truck pulled into the driveway. Linda's Subaru, Diane's sister's car behind it. I'm taking my things, Diane said. All of them. I watched as the three women carried boxes and suitcases from the house. Diane's quilts, her mother's china, the good silverware, 38 years packed into a U-Haul trailer. She stopped at her car, hand on the door. I hope it was worth it, she said. The land. I hope it keeps you warm at night. They drove away. Taillights disappeared down the county road. I stood in the driveway until I couldn't feel my fingers. Then I went inside. The house was gutted. Empty closets, bare walls where her paintings had hung, bedroom stripped except for my side of the bed. I sat at the kitchen table, opened the ledger, wrote, Day 14, 60 days until foreclosure. Diane moved out. Community sides with her. I've never felt this alone. Diane called 18 times over the next 4 days. I didn't answer. On day 18, she left a voicemail at 6 in the morning, voice tight with frustration. Walt, you can't just ignore this. We need to talk like adults. I know you're hurt, but shutting me out isn't healthy. It's not fair to either of us. Call me back. I deleted it, made coffee, walked out to the barn. The cattle were waiting at the gate, breath steaming in the cold. I checked each one, running my hands along flanks, looking for injuries or illness. Calf number 491 had a slight limp, checked her hoof, found a stone wedged in the soft tissue, pulled it out with pliers. She barely flinched, opened the ledger, recorded it. Number 491, stone bruise, treated. My father's voice in my head. Write it down. If you don't write it down, it didn't happen. I turned to a blank page, wrote, Silence isn't weakness, it's patience. Dad taught me that. The barn door creaked open. I looked up, expecting Vern. It was Father Tomas, collar visible under his winter coat. Thought I'd check on you, he said. You didn't stay for coffee hour last week. Didn't feel welcome. He walked over, hands in his pockets. Can I ask you something, Walter? Go ahead. Why didn't you fight back? When Mabel said those things, when the congregation sided with Diane, you just left. And I closed the ledger. Because fighting back means I care what they think. I don't. You don't care at all? I care about the truth. I care about this land. What Mabel thinks about my marriage. I shook my head. She can think whatever she wants. Won't change what happened. Father Tomas was quiet for a moment. That's either very wise or very stubborn. Maybe both. He smiled slightly. Your father was the same way. Quiet, patient. Let people talk themselves out before he said a word. He pulled something from his coat, a small book, leather-bound. He gave me this before he died. Asked me to give it to you when you needed it. I took it. A book of Proverbs, King James Version, pages soft with age. When I needed it? He said you'd know. Father Tomas turned to leave, stopped at the door. Proverbs 11:1. He had it marked. After he left, I opened the book. Found the passage, underlined in my father's hand. A false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is his delight. Beneath it, in pencil, truth weighs what it weighs, lies always tip the scale. Rita called that afternoon. Can you meet me at the diner, not the bank? She was already in a back booth when I arrived, 2 cups of coffee waiting. The diner smelled like grease and burnt toast. Waitress didn't look up from her crossword puzzle. Rita slid a folder across the table. I could lose my job for this. Inside, photocopies of loan documents, not just mine, 3 others, all from Westbrook Auction, all using ranch property as collateral, all with signatures that looked slightly off. Cody's done this before, Rita said quietly. 3 times in the last 5 years. Different banks, different properties. He targets people with land. I studied the signatures, recognized 2 of the names, both widows, both members of First Baptist. Why didn't the banks catch it? Different banks, different counties. No one connected the pattern until I started digging. She leaned forward. Walter, here's what I can't tell you officially, but I'm telling you anyway. I have a friend at the county clerk's office. She's cross-referencing all these signatures right now. If even one of them is proven fraudulent, it establishes a pattern. How long? She's pushing it through, maybe a week. Rita tapped the folder. But you need a handwriting expert, a good one, someone who can testify in court if it comes to that. I told you, I don't have... She slid a business card across the table. Jennifer Albright. She's the best in the state. Testified in the Morrison fraud case in 2019. I looked at the card. Rita, I can't afford. She owes me a favor, a big one. I got her daughter into a college loan program 3 years ago. Rita stood, pulled on her coat. Call her today. Tell her I sent you. She'll do it. Why are you doing this? Her eyes softened. Because your daddy helped mine when no one else would. Because some debts don't expire. And because... She picked up her purse. Because what Cody's doing is wrong, and someone needs to stop him. I called Jennifer Albright from the truck. She answered on the second ring, voice professional and clipped. Ms. Albright, my name is Walter Brennan. Rita Kimball suggested I call. Ah, the Brennan Ranch case. Papers rustled in the background. Rita sent me preliminary documents yesterday. I've already started the analysis. You have? Rita doesn't call in favors lightly. When she does, I pay attention. More rustling. I need original signatures from you. At least 10 samples from different time periods. Tax returns, checks, any legal documents you've signed in the past decade. Can you get those to me by Friday? Yes. Good. I'll have a preliminary report in 7 days. Full forensic analysis in 10. She paused. Mr. Brennan, based on what I've seen so far, this is forgery. Very careful forgery, but forgery nonetheless. The pressure patterns are wrong, the pen speed, the confidence of the stroke. My throat tightened. How sure are you? 95%. But I need those originals to be certain. I thanked her, hung up, sat in the truck, staring at the diner's neon sign flickering in the gray afternoon. 56 days until foreclosure, 7 days until the handwriting report. For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt something besides dread. I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had a chance. That night, I wrote in the ledger, day 22, handwriting expert hired, county investigating other victims. Rita risked her job to help. Vern brought fence supplies. Father Tomas brought Dad's Bible. I paused, pen hovering over the page, not fighting alone anymore. Sheriff Dale Morrison showed up at the ranch on day 28. I was rotating cattle to the south pasture when I saw his cruiser coming up the drive. Light bar off, but moving slow. Official. He got out, adjusted his belt. We'd known each other since high school. He'd been 2 years behind me, played football while I showed cattle at State Fair. Walt? He didn't meet my eyes. Got a minute? Sure. We stood by the fence. The cattle grazed behind us, unbothered. Cold wind came off the plains, carrying the smell of distant snow. I have to ask you something. Dale pulled out a small notepad. Did you threaten Cody Westbrook? No. Did you trespass at Westbrook auction on the night of February 10th? I haven't been near that place in 3 weeks. He wrote something down. Cody filed a report yesterday, says you showed up at the auction house with a rifle, made verbal threats against his life. I stared at him. That's a lie. Can anyone verify where you were that night? I was here, alone. Dale nodded, still writing. See, that's the problem. No alibi. And people are talking, Walt. Half the town thinks you're... He trailed off. Thinks I'm what? Unstable. Obsessed. Can't let Diane go. He finally looked at me. Making false accusations about fraud, harassing Cody, driving past his place at odd hours. I've never driven past his place. That's what Mabel Henderson said she saw. Tuesday night, around 10 p.m. Your truck. Mabel's lying. Or you're losing track of things. Dale put the notepad away. Look, I'm not saying I believe Cody, but I need you to understand how this looks. Your wife leaves you for another man. You file a fraud complaint that sounds... Well, it sounds like a desperate attempt to hurt them both. Now Cody's saying you're escalating. I'm not escalating anything. I'm defending my property. Just... He rubbed his face. Lay low, okay? Don't go near Cody. Don't call Diane. Don't give anyone ammunition. Dale, when this is over, Cody's going to prison. The county's investigating him for fraud. Multiple victims. His expression didn't change. I haven't heard anything about that. Because it's not public yet. Right. He walked back to his cruiser, stopped with his hand on the door. I'm giving you friendly advice here, as someone who's known you a long time. You're making yourself look bad. Whatever happened between you and Diane, whatever you think Cody did, let it go. Move on. He drove away. I stood at the fence for 20 minutes, watching the cattle. The sun broke through the clouds briefly, turned the snow golden, then disappeared again. Rita called at 7 p.m. We found them. Found who? 2 more victims, both widows. Sarah Martinez used to teach at the elementary school. Janet Wright worked at the credit union. Her voice was tight with excitement. Cody used the same pattern, befriended them, gained their trust, got access to property documents, forged signatures, took out loans. Did they file complaints? Sarah did. 3 months ago, county clerk's been investigating her case independently. Didn't know about yours until my friend connected them. Papers rustled. Janet's filing tomorrow. She didn't realize what happened until Sarah called her. My heart was pounding. What does this mean? It means Cody's not just a cheater, he's a serial predator who targets vulnerable women with property. Rita paused. And it means the county's fast-tracking all 3 investigations. They're treating this as an organized fraud pattern now. How long? Jennifer Albright finished your handwriting analysis today. She's submitting her report to the county tomorrow. Between her findings and the pattern evidence, Rita's voice dropped. Walter, this could be over in a week, maybe less. I sat down at the kitchen table. Rita, I don't know how to thank you. Thank me by keeping that ranch. She was quiet for a moment. Your father helped mine survive the drought of '78, loaned us cattle, didn't ask for repayment until we could afford it. Took us 3 years. He never pressed, never charged interest, just said, yo, family helps family, even when we're not blood. I didn't know that. He didn't tell many people. That's who he was. I heard her take a breath. I can't stop the foreclosure process, Walt. The bank won't reverse course until the fraud is proven officially. But I can buy you time. A few days, maybe a week. How? By being very, very slow at processing paperwork. I could hear the smile in her voice. Bureaucracy has its uses. I wrote in the ledger that night. Day 28. Sheriff came. Cody spreading lies. 2 more victims found. Pattern established. Jennifer's report finished. Rita buying time. Below that, 50 days left. But for the first time, the truth is moving faster than the clock. I flipped to the back of the ledger, found the page where my father had written emergency contacts in 1985, his handwriting steady and sure. Below it, I wrote, truth weighs what it weighs. Lies always tip the scale. The furnace kicked on. Outside, the wind had died down. First robin I'd seen all winter sat on the fence post chirping in the near dark. Spring was coming, slowly, but coming. I sat in Father Tomas's office on day 35, afternoon light slanting through the window. The room smelled like old books and pipe tobacco. A crucifix hung on the wall behind his desk, wood dark with age. I need to ask you something, I said. He set down the parish newsletter he'd been editing. Go ahead. Was I a bad husband? He didn't answer right away. Took off his reading glasses, folded them carefully. Define bad. Did I searched for the words. Did I drive her to this? The affair? The theft? Was it because I wasn't enough? Walter, those are 2 different questions. He leaned back in his chair. Were you a perfect husband? No. Are any of us perfect spouses? No. Did your imperfections justify what Diane did? Absolutely not. But if I'd been different, you can't rewrite history by blaming yourself for someone else's choices. His voice was gentle but firm. Yes, you worked long hours. Yes, you were emotionally reserved. Yes, you prioritized the ranch over romantic gestures. Those are facts. So I was absent. You were present in the ways you knew how, providing, maintaining, protecting. He paused. But Diane needed different things, words, attention, dreams beyond the fence line, and you didn't or couldn't give her those things. My throat felt tight. Then it is my fault. No, he leaned forward. Your neglect didn't give her permission to commit fraud. Your silence didn't justify her theft. What she did, forging your signature, stealing your legacy, those are crimes, not consequences of a bad marriage, crimes. I looked at the crucifix. Then why do I feel like I failed? Because you loved her, and love makes us feel responsible even for things we didn't cause. He picked up a pen, turned it over in his hands. Walter, I've counseled hundreds of couples over 30 years. You want to know what I've learned? Sometimes people betray us, not because we failed them, but because they failed themselves. They make a choice, adultery, theft, abandonment, and then they rewrite history to justify it. They tell themselves and everyone else that they had no choice, that they were driven to it. The congregation believes her. Some do, the ones who need simple stories, but the truth is rarely simple. He stood, walked to the bookshelf, pulled out a worn Bible. Diane came to confession 6 weeks ago. I can't tell you what she said. That's sealed. But I can tell you this. She's not at peace with her choices. Whatever she tells other people, whatever she tells herself, there's guilt there. Deep guilt. She admitted the forgery? I didn't say that. He handed me the Bible, open to a marked page. Proverbs 21:2. Every way of a man is right in his own eyes, but the Lord pondereth the hearts. I read it twice. I don't understand. Diane has convinced herself she's justified, that you drove her to it, that she deserves happiness even if it costs you everything. He sat back down. But justification and truth aren't the same thing. In her heart, she knows what she did was wrong. That's why she's so angry with you. Because I won't forgive her. Because you won't validate her story. Father Tomas tapped the Bible. You're holding up a mirror by simply existing. By filing that fraud complaint, by staying silent instead of rage fighting, you're forcing her to see herself clearly, and she hates that. I closed the Bible, set it on his desk. I don't know if I'm fighting for justice or revenge. Maybe both, maybe neither. He picked up his pipe, didn't light it, just held it. What I do know is this. You're fighting for something that matters. Legacy. Truth. The land your father entrusted to you. Those aren't small things. But if I win, if I keep the ranch, I lose her. 38 years. Gone. Those years were already gone the moment she forged your signature. His voice softened. You're mourning something that ended months ago. You just didn't know it yet. I drove home as the sun was setting, pulled into the driveway, sat in the truck for a long time. The house looked smaller somehow, older, windows dark, no smoke from the chimney. I'd stopped lighting fires after Diane left. Seemed wasteful for just me. My phone buzzed, text message from an unknown number. This is Clay. Vern gave me your number. Can we talk? I stared at it. Clay, my son. Hadn't spoken to him in 6 years, not since the argument that sent him to Denver. Couldn't even remember what we'd fought about. Something about the ranch, about expectations, about me wanting him to stay and him needing to leave. I typed back. Yes. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Vern told me what's happening. With Mom in the ranch. I'm sorry. Not your fault. Can I call you? I hesitated. Then, yes. The phone rang 10 seconds later. Dad. His voice was older, rougher. 40 years old now, a man I barely knew. Clay. Silence. Not hostile, just uncertain, like we'd both forgotten how to talk to each other. Vern said Mom forged your signature, he said finally. Used the ranch as collateral for Cody's loan. That's right. Jesus, he exhaled. I always knew she was unhappy, but I didn't think she'd... He stopped. Are you okay? The question surprised me. When was the last time someone asked if I was okay? Managing, I said. That's not what I asked. I looked out at the barn, the cattle moving slowly in the twilight. I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm alone, and I don't know if I can save this place. The ranch? Yeah. More silence. Then, you remember when I left? 6 years ago? I remember. You told me the ranch wasn't big enough for both of us, that I should find my own place. His voice was careful, controlled. I thought you were kicking me out. I thought you didn't want me there. My chest tightened. That's not... Clay, I never wanted you gone. Then why'd you say it? Because... I pressed my palm against the steering wheel. Because I was trapped here, my whole life. My father died when I was 19 and I had to quit college, run this place alone. I never got to see the world, never got to figure out who I was outside of these fences. And I didn't want that for you. So you pushed me away. I gave you permission to leave. That's different. Not from where I was standing. He was quiet for a moment. I spent 6 years thinking you didn't want me, that I wasn't good enough, that I'd failed some test. You didn't fail anything. Then why didn't you call? Why didn't you visit? Why didn't you ever... His voice cracked. Why didn't you ever say you missed me? I closed my eyes. Because I'm an idiot. Because I learned from my father how to work, not how to talk. Because I thought... I stopped, started again. Because I thought love was giving you the freedom I never had. And I was wrong. The line was quiet, except for his breathing. Vern called me last week, Clay said finally. Told me you were drowning and too stubborn to ask for help. He said if I didn't come home, I'd regret it the rest of my life. You don't have to, I want to. His voice was firm now. I'm coming home, Dad. Not because you asked, you never do, but because I want to learn what you never taught me. Learn what? How to run the ranch, how to tag cattle, how to keep records in that damn ledger you're always writing in. He paused. How to be the kind of man who doesn't run away when things get hard. My throat closed up. I tried to speak. Couldn't. Dad? I'm here. Spring calving starts in 3 weeks, right? About that. I'll be there in 4 days. We can start then. He took a breath. Maybe we can figure this out together. The ranch, the foreclosure, all of it. Maybe it's not too late. I looked at the house, the barn, the fields stretching dark in the twilight. 4 generations of Brennans. Maybe 5, if I didn't screw this up. It's not too late, I said. After we hung up, I sat in the truck until the stars came out. Then I went inside, opened the ledger, and wrote, Day 35. Father Tomas asked if I was fighting for justice or revenge. Don't know yet, but Clay's coming home. Spring calving in 3 weeks, 43 days until foreclosure. Maybe I don't have to do this alone after all. I pulled out the envelope Father Tomas had given me earlier, handed it to me as I was leaving, said, From your son, he asked me to give it to you when you were ready. Inside, a letter, dated 2 weeks ago. Dad, Vern called, told me everything. I know you won't ask for help, you never do, but I'm coming anyway, not to save you. You don't need saving, but maybe we can save the ranch together. And maybe, if we're lucky, we can figure out how to be father and son again. I'll be there for spring calving. Teach me what you should have taught me 20 years ago. Clay. I folded the letter, put it in the ledger between the pages, pressed flat like a flower. Outside, the first real thaw began, eaves dripping, snow melting in patches, the smell of earth underneath wet and dark and alive. Spring was coming. Margaret from the county clerk's office called on day 42, 9 a.m. sharp. Mr. Brennan, I need you to come to the courthouse. Now. What's happened? Just come. And come alone. I drove the 12 miles in silence, radio off. The roads were mud and slush, full thaw underway, temperature in the 40s. Meadowlarks had returned, singing from fence posts. The world was waking up. The courthouse parking lot was nearly empty. I climbed the steps, boots leaving mud tracks on the tile. Margaret's office door was open. Inside, Margaret, county clerk, Sheriff Dale, and a woman I didn't recognize, 50s, gray suit, briefcase. Cody Westbrook sat in the corner chair, lawyer beside him. His face was pale, jaw tight. Mr. Brennan, Margaret gestured to an empty chair. Please sit. I sat, looked at Cody. He wouldn't meet my eyes. Margaret opened a folder. I'm going to read the county's findings. Mr. Westbrook, you have the right to remain silent, but everything said here today is on the record and will be submitted to the district attorney. Cody's lawyer leaned forward. My client maintains. Your client can maintain whatever he wants. The woman in the gray suit spoke. I'm Jennifer Albright, forensic document examiner. I was hired to analyze the signature on deed number 4478820, allegedly signed by Walter Brennan on October 14, 2024. She opened her briefcase, pulled out a bound report. My findings are conclusive. The signature is forged. Pressure analysis shows inconsistent pen speed. Stroke patterns indicate tracing rather than natural signing. Ink composition doesn't match Mr. Brennan's documented pen preference over 40 years of signatures. She slid the report across the desk to Margaret. In my professional opinion, to a certainty of 99.2%, Walter Brennan did not sign this document. Margaret nodded, pulled out another folder. Furthermore, this office has identified 3 additional cases involving Mr. Westbrook using an identical pattern. Sarah Martinez, 2022, Janet Wright, 2023, and she paused. Eleanor Voss, 2021. All widows, all with property, all with forged signatures using their land as loan collateral. Cody's lawyer stood. We deny all. Sit down. Sheriff Dale's voice was flat. You're not in control here. The lawyer sat. Margaret continued. Mrs. Martinez filed a formal complaint in November. Mrs. Wright filed yesterday. Mrs. Voss's son filed this morning after learning of the investigation. All 3 handwriting analyses confirm forgery. She looked at Cody. Mr. Westbrook, based on the county's findings and forensic evidence, I'm voiding deed transfer number 4478820. The Brennan Ranch deed is restored to Walter Brennan's sole ownership, effective immediately. My hands gripped the armrests. Furthermore, Margaret nodded to Sheriff Dale. Dale stood, walked to Cody. Cody Westbrook, you're under arrest for multiple counts of forgery, fraud, and identity theft. You have the right to remain silent. Cody's face crumpled. Not angry, just broken. This wasn't supposed to. I was going to pay it back. I just needed time. His lawyer grabbed his arm. Don't say anything. I have kids. Cody looked at me, finally, eyes red. I have kids in college. I was drowning. The auction house was failing, and I thought I could fix it. Stop talking. His lawyer pulled him toward the door. Sheriff Dale cuffed him. The sound echoed in the small office, metal clicking shut. They walked him out. I heard his boots on the tile, then nothing. Margaret slid a document across the desk. Original deed, restored. I'm filing this with the state today. I picked it up. My great-grandfather's signature from 1889, my grandfather's from 1947, my father's from 1962, mine from 1985, 4 generations still intact. Mr. Brennan? Jennifer Albright was packing her briefcase. I'm also submitting findings regarding the notary stamp. Diane Brennan's license will be suspended pending state board review. She'll likely face charges. I nodded, couldn't speak. You should call your bank, Margaret said gently. Tell them the deed's been restored. The foreclosure should be withdrawn immediately. I sat in the truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes, held the deed in both hands. The paper was old, edges soft. My father's signature, strong and sure. You kept your promise, Dad. It's still ours. I called Rita. Walter, I heard. Her voice was bright. Margaret called me 5 minutes ago. The foreclosure's being withdrawn. Board's voting this afternoon, but it's a formality. You're clear. Rita, I don't know how to thank you. Keep the ranch. That's thanks enough. She paused. Your father would be proud. I hung up, sat there as the sun climbed higher, warming the cab. Mud season in full force now, snow melting fast, revealing brown grass underneath. Dead grass that would turn green in a few weeks. My phone buzzed, text from Clay. When should I arrive? I typed back. Today, if you can. Spring calving starts in 10 days, 3 dots, then I'll be there tonight, save me some work. I drove home slowly, taking the long route past Westbrook Auction. The building looked smaller in daylight. A county notice posted on the door. Business license suspended pending investigation. The parking lot was empty except for Cody's truck alone. I didn't stop, just drove past, eyes forward. At home, I walked to the barn. The cattle were waiting at the gate, same as always. Calf number 491 was healed, no more limp. 487 had grown, nearly weaned. I opened the ledger, flipped to today's page. Day 42. County voided the deed transfer. Cody arrested. Foreclosure withdrawn. Ranch is mine. Still mine. Clay arrives tonight. I paused, pen hovering. Diane's nursing license suspended. She'll face charges. Part of me feels bad for her. 38 years, and it ends like this. But she made her choices. I made mine. The land doesn't lie. The land doesn't leave. A truck engine in the distance. I looked up. Clay's Silverado coming up the drive, 2 hours earlier than expected. He pulled up next to the barn, got out, 40 years old, gray in his beard, looked like my father around the eyes. You're early, I said. Couldn't wait. He walked over, stopped a few feet away. Awkward. So, you won. We won. I held out the ledger. You still want to learn? He took it, opened it carefully, like it might break, flipped through the pages. Decades of entries. Cattle records, weather notes, my father's handwriting mixed with mine. This goes back to 1889. Great-grandfather started it. He looked at me. And you want me to add to it? I want you to continue it. I pulled the ear tagger from my belt. Starting now. Calf number 503 was born this morning, needs tagging. Clay took the tagger, weighed it in his hand. You're going to have to show me how. That's the idea. We walked to the stall together. The calf was standing, nursing from her mother, healthy, strong. First, I said, you don't just tag them. You promise them you'll keep them alive. Through winter, through drought, through whatever comes. That's the contract. Clay nodded. How do you make that promise? By showing up every morning, by checking fences, by writing it down. I pointed to the ledger. If you don't write it down, it didn't happen. He tagged the calf, hands steady, confident, natural. I opened the ledger, handed him the pen. Your turn to keep the record. Clay wrote, number 503, female, born April 28th, tagged by Clay Brennan. Below it, he paused, then added, co-steward, 5th generation. He handed the ledger back. Our hands touched briefly. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For letting me come home. We stood there as the sun set, 2 men in a barn, 40 years of silence between us starting to crack. Outside, the meadowlarks sang. The local paper ran the story on day 48. Livestock auctioneer arrested on multiple fraud charges, front page below the fold. I read it at the kitchen table while Clay made coffee. Says here, he used the same pattern on 4 different women, Clay said, reading over my shoulder. That's... Jesus, Dad. He's a predator. Yeah. And Mom helped him. I set the paper down. She made a choice. The article detailed Cody's arrests, the victims, the pattern, mentioned my case specifically. Brennan Ranch, 240 acres, family-owned since 1889, made me sound like a victim. I didn't feel like one. Not anymore. Clay poured coffee into 2 mugs. Have you heard from her? Your mother? No. Are you going to call her? No. He sat down across from me. She called me yesterday, left a voicemail. I looked up. What did she say? That she made a mistake. That she never meant for it to go this far. That Cody manipulated her. He wrapped his hands around the mug. She wanted me to talk to you, ask you to drop the charges. I didn't file charges. The county did. I told her that. He took a sip. She's scared, Dad. Her nursing license is suspended. She could go to jail. She notarized a forged signature. That's a felony. I know. He was quiet for a moment. Do you hate her? I thought about it. Really thought. No, I said finally. I'm angry. I'm hurt, but hate? That takes energy I don't have. I picked up my coffee. She wanted something I couldn't give her, so she took something I couldn't afford to lose. That's not love. That's not even betrayal. It's just greed. Think she'll go to prison? Depends on the DA. Depends on how complicit they think she was. I looked out the window at the barn. But that's not my problem anymore. Diane filed for divorce on day 50. The papers arrived by courier, thick manila envelope. Clay was in the barn when I opened it. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Irreconcilable differences. Requesting no spousal support, no property division. She was cutting her losses. Smart. If she asked for anything from the ranch, the DA could argue she benefited from the fraud. I signed the papers at the kitchen table. Didn't read past the first page. Didn't need to. 38 years. Ended with a signature. Father Tomas agreed to witness. He drove out that afternoon, sat across from me while I signed. How do you feel? He asked. Empty. I slid the papers across to him. Not sad, not relieved, just empty. He signed as witness, dated it. That'll change. Give it time. How much time? However long it takes. He stood, pulled on his coat. You coming to church Sunday? Maybe. The congregation's changed their tune. Since Cody's arrest, people have been asking about you, wanting to apologize. I don't need their apologies. I know, but they need to give them. He paused at the door. Grace isn't just about forgiving others, Walter. It's about letting them forgive themselves. After he left, I put the divorce papers in an envelope, mailed them that afternoon. Spring calving started on day 55, first week of May. The weather had turned. 60s during the day, 40s at night. Perfect. The pasture was greening up, wildflowers starting to bloom along the fence lines. Columbine, lupine, Indian paintbrush. Clay and I worked dawn to dusk, checking the herd every 4 hours. Most births went smooth. A few needed help. On the 3rd day, we found a heifer in distress. R502, first-time mother. The calf was breech, back legs first, dangerous. What do we do? Clay asked. We help her. I rolled up my sleeves. Hold her steady. It took 20 minutes. The calf came out limp, not breathing. I cleared its airway, rubbed its chest hard. Clay watched, silent. The calf gasped, coughed, started breathing. Jesus, Clay said. I thought we lost it. Sometimes they need a little help getting started. I sat back on my heels, arms covered in blood and birth fluids. But once they're breathing, they're strong. The calf tried to stand, fell. Tried again. The mother nuzzled it, lowing soft encouragement. Clay pulled out the ledger. What do I write? 503, male, born May 3rd, breech birth, assisted delivery, dam 502, sire, Ma 147. He wrote it down carefully, then looked up at me. Can I add something? It's your record now. Add whatever you want. He wrote, delivered by Walter and Clay Brennan, fifth generation continues. That evening, we sat on the porch, exhausted, covered in dirt, and worse. The sun was setting, painting the fields orange and gold. Meadowlarks sang in the pines. The air smelled like warm earth and wildflowers and cattle. You ever regret it? Clay asked. Staying here your whole life? Never leaving? I thought about it. Sometimes. When I was younger, I used to dream about college, about seeing the ocean, about living somewhere with more than 2 stoplights. I sipped my coffee. But this land, it's not just dirt and grass. It's 4 generations of promises. My great-grandfather promised to steward it, my grandfather promised to preserve it, my father promised to pass it on, and I promised to keep it. What if I don't want it? The question surprised me. You don't have to want it. But I brought you back to teach you, so you'd know how, so you'd have the choice I never had. I set my coffee down. If you want to sell it after I'm gone, sell it. If you want to keep it, but at least you'll know what you're choosing. He was quiet for a long time. Then, I want to keep it. You sure? Yeah. He looked out at the fields, the cattle, the barn. I spent 6 years in Denver. Good job, nice apartment, plenty of restaurants and bars and things to do. And I was miserable because I kept thinking about this place, about mornings like this, about work that matters. A coyote called in the distance. The cattle shifted in the pasture, settling for the night. You know what Vern told me? Clay said. He said you can't run from your blood. It'll follow you wherever you go. Might as well make peace with it. Vern's a smart man. Yeah. Clay stood, stretched. I'm going to check the herd one more time before bed. I'll come with you. We walked to the barn together, father and son, boot steps matching on the dirt path. The ledger sat open on the workbench. 5 generations of handwriting, all different, all promising the same thing. We were here, we did the work, we kept the land alive. And now there would be a 6th generation. Maybe. If Clay had kids someday, if they wanted it. But that was future. This was now, and now was enough. People ask if I regret how I handled it. The silence. The waiting. Truth is, I regret a lot. But not that. Diane took 38 years of my life. Cody took my trust. But I took something back they never expected. I took my time. Revenge is loud. Justice is patient. The land taught me that. You can't rush a spring thaw. You can't force a calf to be born before it's ready. All you can do is show up every morning, check the fences, and wait for the truth to surface. It's been 2 years now. Cody served 18 months, got out on good behavior. Last I heard, he's selling insurance in Nebraska. Diane remarried, moved to Oregon. Her nursing license was restored after probation. She sends Clay birthday cards. He doesn't open them. The ranch is still here. 240 acres, 5 generations, 136 years. Clay runs most of it now. I still do the morning check, still keep the ledger, but my hands shake more than they used to. Arthritis, the doctor says. The doctor. Old age, I say. Clay's got a son. Emmett, 5 years old. Watches us tag cattle from the fence. Asks 1,000 questions. Clay's teaching him the way I should have taught Clay. With patience, with words, with time. This morning, I opened the ledger to record a birth. Found Clay's handwriting, number 687, female, born May 15th, delivered by Emmett Brennan with significant help. 6th generation learning the work. I closed the ledger, walked to the porch, watched the sunrise paint the fields gold, listened to the meadowlarks sing, smelled coffee and new grass and cattle and earth. Clay came out, handed me a cup. Emmett between us, small and curious and alive. Morning, Dad, Clay said. I looked at my son, my grandson, my land. Morning, I said. And it was.